Disguised chefs saw talented cook cutting meat at 3 a.m. and learned why she skipped college. The stainless steel door eased open, and Daniel Ross stepped into the dim back kitchen. The clock on the wall blinking 3:07 a.m., a cold draft rolled across the room, but Maya Henderson did not flinch. She stood at the counter with her shoulders tight, a single overhead bulb casting sharp shadows as she sliced through a slab of meat with movements to clean. Too practiced for someone labeled just a cook. The rhythmic sound of her knife filled the empty space. Steady but heavy, as if she was forcing herself not to break down. Daniel paused, pretending to adjust his apron, but his eyes stayed on her hands. Bruises wrapped around her knuckles. Small cuts lined her fingers. Yet every motion looked refined, controlled, almost professional. Nothing about her belonged to the role she had been assigned. Something about the way she kept wiping her cheek with the back of her wrist told him tears were being hidden as carefully as her talent. When the hallway floor creaked, Maya stiffened so sharply the blade trembled. She turned slightly, not enough to show her face, but enough for Daniel to notice the fear she tried to bury. No beginner reacted like that. No ordinary kitchen worker moved with that level of discipline, and no one looked over their shoulder that many times unless someone had been hurting them for a very long time. If you want more powerful stories like this, supporting the channel with a like and subscribing helps more than you know. It keeps these voices heard and these journeys alive. The first time anyone noticed Maya Henderson's talent, she was barely 16. Standing in her grandmother's tiny kitchen, turning leftovers into meals that tasted like comfort and hope at the same time. Teachers called her gifted. Neighbors begged her to cook for events. By graduation, she held acceptance letters from 3 culinary schools, each one offering partial scholarships because her potential was impossible to ignore. For a moment, her future felt bright, clean, and predictable. Then life reminded her that dreams do not always get the final say. Her mother collapsed 2 months before classes began, leaving Maya responsible for hospital visits, medication costs, and her younger brother. Money evaporated overnight. College became an unimaginable luxury. The only job she could find that paid enough to keep the house afloat was at Harvest and Hearth's Cleveland location. She promised herself it would be temporary, just until things stabilized. But the months stretched into years, and the kitchen, it became less of a stepping stone and more of a trap she could not escape. When Richard Cain became the new general manager, everything changed. At first, he came across as supportive a man who claimed he saw potential in her. He complimented her precision, asked about her favorite dishes, and even joked about helping her get into culinary school someday. But the warmth faded fast. Compliments turned into controlling comments. Guidance turned into micromanagement. His tone shifted whenever other employees were present, dripping with condescension, especially in front of customers. He began assigning her the worst tasks. Scrubbing walk-in freezers alone, lifting heavy crates until her arms shook, cleaning grease traps at 2 a.m. Whenever he felt she needed to be pushed harder, whenever she tried to contribute creatively, he stole credit for her recipes, presenting them to upper management as if they were his own brilliant ideas. Maya learned quickly that confronting him only made things worse. On good days, he ignored her completely. On bad ones, he found reasons to humiliate her in front of the entire kitchen, staff criticizing her posture, belittling her cooking techniques, or making snide comments about her background. His language sharpened with time, revealing a bitterness she could no longer pretend not to hear. She should be grateful she even has a job, he once muttered while walking past her. People like her always crack under pressure, he whispered to a supervisor, and the worst delivered loud enough so the entire room could hear. Black workers only look motivated when someone is watching. Maya held her breath, lowered her eyes, and kept working. Survival required silence. Her schedule devolved into endless night shifts, starting after the last customer left and ending before the sun rose. She cooked alone, cleaned alone, and walked home with swollen knees and trembling wrists. There were nights she could barely unlock her front door because her hands shook so badly. More than once, she cried silently in the break room bathroom, careful not to let the sound echo. Every dream she had, those culinary schools she once held in her hands, felt like another lifetime. She did not skip college because she lacked ambition. She skipped it because choosing education meant her family would have lost everything. The sacrifice carved itself into her life until it became part of her identity. And still, she did not break. Instead, Maya began to observe. She paid attention to how Cain used company funds for personal errands, how he manipulated scheduling systems, and how he pressured certain employees into quitting so he could hire cheaper labor. She noticed patterns in the way he disciplined workers of color more harshly than others. She listened when he bragged in the storage room about smarter ways to cut costs. She stayed quiet when he laughed about firing a dishwasher to send a message. Then one night, exhausted, cold, and tired of living small, she decided silence was over. She bought a small recording device with her remaining savings and tucked it into her apron. It became her invisible shield. Every racist remark, every threat, every illegal shortcut he forced employees to take, Shay captured it all. She recorded his orders to fabricate performance issues. She photographed financial statements that showed clear discrepancies. She saved emails where he instructed supervisors to get rid of employees who did not fit the restaurant's image. She documented overtime hours he refused to log. She archived every shift change he manipulated to punish people he disliked. 5 years of pain slowly transformed into 5 years of evidence. But what she could not predict was that someone else had started noticing too. Her precision, her discipline, her exhaustion, her fear. Daniel Ross walked into the restaurant pretending to be a low-level employee, but he observed with the eyes of a man who had been trained to see what others tried to hide. He watched how Maya worked until she could barely stand. He noticed the way supervisors avoided her, as if instructed to stay away. He listened to rumors trickling through the staff rumors about Cain's temper, his favoritism, his quiet threats. Something about Maya's silence pulled him in. Something about the way she carried herself told him there was history buried beneath her steady hands. And the night he found her cutting meat alone at 3 a.m., trembling each time she heard footsteps, he knew with absolute certainty that her story ran far deeper than a missed college opportunity. What he did not yet know was just how much she had been forced to sacrifice and how much power she now held in her hands. Daniel Ross returned the next night with the same plain apron and the same quiet steps, blending in as if he had worked there for years. No one bothered to question him. People came and went so often in this kitchen that a new temp worker barely registered, but Daniel was not here to fry chicken or wipe down counters. His eyes stayed on Maya, watching how she moved, how she stayed alert, how she carried the weight of something she never spoke about. From the corner of the kitchen, he saw Richard Cain walk in with the cold confidence of a man who believed no one would ever challenge him. His voice carried across the room like a blade. "Maya, you are too slow again. Do I need to remind you? Who keeps you employed?" She murmured a soft apology without lifting her head, even though Daniel had watched her work twice as fast as everyone else. When she reached for a pan, Richard slapped it out of her hand and let it clang onto the floor. Maya froze for a second, shoulders tightening, fear flickering through her posture. Daniel felt anger rise inside him, but he kept his expression steady. Showing emotion now would destroy everything he came here to see. The moment Richard left, Maya bent down to pick up the pan. Daniel knelt beside her and took it first. "You do not have to do everything alone," he said quietly. She looked surprised, almost confused, as if she was not used to kindness. "I am fine," she whispered, but Daniel could tell she was anything but fine. Later that night, he followed Richard at a distance and watched the man unlock the office door. Daniel positioned himself near the shelves, pretending to organize supplies while keeping the door cracked open. Through the gap, he saw Richard stuffing receipts into a folder and ripping out pages from financial logs. His hands moved fast, hurried, guilty. Daniel caught every detail. Misuse of funds, missing inventory reports, false write-ups. It was all there, and Richard did not even try to hide it. When Richard left the office, Daniel slipped inside. He did not touch anything, only scanned the desk and took mental notes. Fraud. This bold explained why the location was failing despite being one of the busiest restaurants in the region. Everything matched the complaints corporate had received, but seeing it firsthand turned suspicion into certainty. On his way out, Daniel bumped into a shelf, causing a container to slip. It would have crashed to the floor, but Maya appeared out of nowhere and caught it before it hit. "You should not be in there," she whispered urgently, eyes wide with fear. "I was just looking for gloves." Daniel lied. "No one looks for gloves in that office." She replied softly, "Please, just be careful." It was the first time she had ever spoken to him with genuine concern. That small moment built an unexpected trust between them. Not friendship, not comfort, but something fragile that could grow if handled with care. Over the next few nights, she helped him without being asked. She showed him where things were kept, warned him about Richard's moods, and offered shortcuts to survive the long shifts. Daniel listened more than he spoke, trying to understand the world she lived in. Then one night, he saw her slip a small flash drive into the pocket of her apron after talking to a supervisor. She moved fast, as if worried someone might be watching. Later, she entered the storage room and checked that the door was closed. Daniel stayed far back, giving her space, but he watched as she reached behind a stack of canned goods and pulled out a small metal box. Inside were printed emails, photos of receipts, screenshots of altered schedules, copies of complaint forms employees had never submitted, and recordings labeled with dates. Maya held each piece like it was fragile, checking edges, sorting everything with practiced hands. She was not collecting out of fear anymore. She was collecting with purpose. Daniel realized then that Maya was not quiet because she was weak. She was quiet because she was planning. A woman who had been pushed to the edge had found a way to fight without lifting her voice. He stepped closer, letting his shoes scrape the floor just enough for her to hear him. Maya spun around, eyes wide, clutching the box to her chest as if he might try to take it. "I am not here to hurt you," he said gently. "You have been protecting yourself for a long time. I can see that." Her breath shook. "Please do not tell him. He will ruin my life." "I think he already tried," Daniel replied softly. For the first time, Maya looked directly at him, searching his face for something: truth, safety, maybe even hope. Daniel wanted to tell her everything, but his timing had to be perfect. He could not afford to scare her or risk the investigation. He stepped back toward the door and pushed it open slightly. "If things ever feel impossible," he said quietly, "come find me. I am not exactly who I look like." Maya frowned, trying to understand. But before she could ask anything, Daniel walked out, leaving behind a clue she could not yet decode, but one that would change everything in the days to come. Richard Cain sensed something shifting around him. He could not explain it, but he felt a kind of pressure in the air, like someone had started lifting the corners of the rug he had used to hide his dirt for years. And Maya, she felt it too. His behavior became sharper, darker, more unpredictable. He was no longer just insulting her. He was watching her. Every move she made, every break she took, every dish she prepared. Richard installed new cameras in the kitchen, pretending it was for safety, but everyone knew those cameras were pointed directly at Maya's station. The pressure intensifies. Richard's threats became more dangerous. He cornered her in the walk-in refrigerator, whispering warnings with a smile that felt colder than the frozen meats stacked behind her. "You think you are smarter than me, Maya? Keep testing me, and see what happens." He assigned her impossible shifts, back-to-back nights, followed by early mornings. He made her clean areas meant for the janitorial team. He accused her of small mistakes she never made just to watch her defend herself. Maya was exhausted. Her hands trembled at work. Her voice shook when Richard called her name, but she was not alone anymore. Daniel Ross watched everything from the sidelines, careful not to expose who he truly was. He saw how Richard's cruelty escalated. He noticed how other workers were scared to speak up, afraid of losing their jobs. And late one night, Daniel finally made his first move. Daniel secretly contacts attorney Miles Carter. Daniel slipped into a quiet corner of the staff hallway and dialed a number almost no one had. Miles Carter, a high-profile corporate attorney known for taking down corrupt executives. "Miles, I need you ready," Daniel whispered. "I believe we found something big." When Miles asked, "Who is we?" Daniel hesitated, thinking of Maya, her courage, her silence, her pain. "A woman who deserves justice," he answered. "Their silent alliance begins." Maya was terrified when Daniel approached her the next morning. He spoke softly, gently. "Do you trust me?" "Even a little." Her heart pounded. Trust had hurt her too many times. But Daniel had never mocked her, never raised his voice, never treated her like she was nothing. I do not know," she admitted. "But I am tired of being scared." That one sentence was the beginning. Together, they started creating an airtight case, one that even Richard could not escape. They organized everything Maya had collected over the years. Emails showing racist remarks, recorded threats with timestamps, secret footage of illegal shortcuts in the kitchen, documents proving financial fraud, logs of forced overtime, screenshots of stolen recipes, witness statements from staff who had suffered quietly. Daniel scanned each file with steady hands, his face tightening with every new piece of evidence. "Maya," he said quietly, "you were not surviving. You were preparing." For the first time, she believed it too. Richard moves in for the kill, as if sensing danger. Richard struck again. He stormed into the kitchen one afternoon, slamming a folder on the counter. "Maya, pack your things. You are finished here." The staff froze. Maya's breath stopped in her chest. But Daniel, he stepped forward in a calm, almost calculated way. "Sir, she was not the one on duty when the order was delayed," Daniel said. "We checked the logs." Richard's eyes narrowed. He hated anyone defending Maya. He hated losing control. After a tense moment, he hissed, "Fine. But watch yourself. Both of you." He walked away, but not before glancing suspiciously at Daniel, as if he sensed something he could not prove. The breaking point approaches every day after that felt like walking on cracked glass. Maya had nightmares of losing everything. Daniel barely slept, juggling the restaurant work while guiding Miles Carter through every detail. Richard's paranoia grew stronger, making the kitchen feel like a battlefield where something explosive was about to happen. But one thing was clear. The storm was no longer just coming. It had already begun, and the next strike would decide everything. The morning of the confrontation began quietly. Too quietly. Maya walked into the kitchen with a steady breath, though her hands were shaking. Daniel stood at the far end of the room, watching her with a calm expression that held a different kind of power today. Almost like he was done hiding. Richard Cain pushed through the office door, barking orders as always. "Maya, you are late. And you," he pointed at Daniel, "clean the storage room. You are useless here." But this time, no one moved. Something in the air felt different. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady. "Richard, we need to talk." Richard laughed loudly. "Who do you think you are? A temp worker telling me what to do?" Daniel reached into his jacket and placed a sleek corporate ID card on the counter. The room went silent. "My name is Daniel Ross," he said slowly, "and I am the CEO of Ross Hospitality Group, the company that owns this entire restaurant chain." Richard's face turned pale so fast it looked unreal. You are lying?" he stuttered. "You are pretending. This is some trick." Daniel's calm did not break. "For weeks I watched how you treated people, how you stole, threatened, and destroyed lives. I saw what you did to Maya." At the mention of her name, Richard snapped. "She is nothing," he shouted. "She lies. She cheats. Maya," Daniel said gently, cutting him off. "Show them." Maya stepped forward. Her heart was pounding so hard it felt like it echoed through the whole kitchen, but she held her ground. One by one, she placed the files on the prep table. Emails with racist comments, recordings of threats, proof of stolen recipes, secret footage of illegal shortcuts, financial fraud documents, screenshots of forced overtime, witness statements from terrified staff. Every page felt like she was finally lifting a weight she had carried for years. Richard grabbed a folder and ripped it in half. This is fake. None of this is real. She is framing me. But before he could tear more evidence, the kitchen doors burst open. 2 federal agents stepped inside, followed by attorney Miles Carter. Richard Cain, one agent announced, "You are under arrest for fraud, harassment, labor violations, and financial misconduct." The staff gasped. Some covered their mouths. Some stepped back in shock. And some, those who had suffered quietly, let out a breath they had held for far too long. Richard froze as the agents cuffed his wrists. His voice cracked with disbelief. "You cannot do this to me. I built this place." "She is lying." Maya lifted her chin, tears shining in her eyes, not of fear, but of strength. "You did not break me," she whispered. The agents led Richard out through the kitchen he once controlled like a tyrant. Now he walked through it powerless, exposed, defeated. Daniel rested a reassuring hand on Maya's shoulder. "You did this," he said softly. "Justice happened because you were brave." Every single person in the kitchen watched Maya, not with pity, not with fear, but with respect, because in that moment, she was the strongest person in the room. The kitchen felt alive in a way it had never been before. Maya Henderson moved confidently among the stations, giving instructions with calm authority. Daniel Ross watched from the corner, a proud smile on his face. Effective immediately, he announced to the staff. "Maya is now head chef of this location. Her talent, dedication, and integrity deserve recognition." A ripple of applause spread through the room. Some employees wiped tears from their eyes. Others exchanged looks of relief and gratitude. The fear that had hung over the staff for years finally lifted. Maya's hands worked as if every movement carried purpose. Each chop, stir, and plate prepared reflected the years of training she had once hidden behind exhaustion and humiliation. The kitchen ran smoother than ever. Staff began smiling at each other instead of avoiding glances. Requests for advice and collaboration replaced whispered complaints and silent frustration. Daniel approached Maya during a brief pause in service. "You've turned this place into something extraordinary," he said quietly. "You've not only restored this kitchen, you've inspired everyone around you." Maya looked around at the bustling room, the energy she had longed for finally filling the space. A sense of pride and peace settled over her. She finally felt seen, her talent finally acknowledged. For a quiet moment, she leaned against the counter and let out a deep breath. "Daniel," she said softly, "I never went to college because I had to provide for my family. Life demanded sacrifices, and survival became my school." Daniel nodded, understanding the weight behind her words. Her journey had been hard, unfair, and filled with obstacles no one should endure. Yet here she was, standing strong, recognized, and respected. Maya glanced at the staff, now laughing lightly as they worked together. The kitchen felt like a family again. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe in her own potential. The restaurant's reputation soared. Diners noticed the difference in every dish. Reviews praised the consistency, creativity, and passion of the food. Employee turnover dropped to nearly zero. Maya's mentorship inspired younger cooks, and a new culture of respect and excellence flourished. As Daniel watched Maya coordinate dinner service with effortless precision, he realized that the story of injustice had transformed into a story of empowerment. Maya had not only reclaimed her life, she had elevated everyone around her. Her healing had begun. Her confidence was no longer fragile but unstoppable. The woman who once worked alone at 3 a.m., carrying the weight of humiliation, had become a symbol of resilience, leadership, and justice. And in that moment, the mystery of why she had skipped college was no longer a mark of failure, but a testament to her strength and determination. Maya Henderson had turned every obstacle into a step toward triumph. Maya stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. The quiet hum of the kitchen behind her reminded her of how far she had come. Every humiliation, every stolen opportunity, every act of injustice had shaped her into who she was now. She smiled softly, knowing that the best revenge was not to destroy Richard Cain, but to rise so high that his hate could never reach her. Her mind wandered to the young chefs she would mentor, the talent she would nurture, the dreams she would protect. She realized that her strength and resilience had created a legacy, far greater than revenge, one that would empower others and honor her own journey. Turning back to the bustling kitchen, Maya felt a calm certainty. She had reclaimed her life, her dignity, and her future. The story of struggle had become a story of triumph. If Maya's journey inspired you, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories of resilience, courage, and justice. Your support helps us share these powerful stories with the world.